It's over at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin, and the result coming in 3, 2, 1. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers, and congratulations, back-to-back Six Nations champions, Ireland, deservedly so. And that is no mean feat, you know. It wasn't the Grand Slam many were hoping for or thinking may come to fruition, but it just went to demonstrate last week just how difficult it is to win this competition. Certainly to get a Grand Slam is a monumental effort. To win it, and to win it back-to-back, just demonstrates this is one of the finest Irish teams that there has ever been. But I want to start at the start, or before the start. Now, I mentioned on my video when I announced the teams the other day, I wonder, potentially, could this be Peter O'Mahony and Conor Murray and Cian Healy's final game for Ireland at the Aviva Stadium? I didn't go any further than that, but what happened this morning where there were some rumours circling around that this could be Peter O'Mahony's last match, full stop, in green. And his reaction during the national anthem has certainly added fuel to that particular theory. Has he played his final game? I tell you what, I absolutely love that man. If you've watched this channel for any length of time, you know I am one of the biggest fans of the War God. One of my favourite players, full stop. The belligerence of the man, the courage, the bravery. He's just awesome. That would be the most Peter O'Mahony way to retire from international rugby, if that what happens. And obviously all eyes are on the post-match interviews. I'm hitting record on this immediately following the final whistle, so he may well be talking right now and announcing his retirement or not. But if that is the case, that would be the most Peter O'Mahony way to do it ever. A proper Irish goodbye, saying not a word and just bowing out. And bowing out as a Six Nations champion. Whatever the case, he's led his team to that title right now. So fair play. By the way, if you love Peter O'Mahony as much as I do, have a look at the video that what you'll find in the channel. In fact, I'll put a link to it in the description down below. My tribute to Peter O'Mahony, if you want to see just how much I love the man. One of my most popular videos. So go and check that out. But back to the game. And yes, there was all that emotion in the national anthem. Bad news for Ireland before kick-off with Hugo Keenan out. Jordan Lama, great to see him getting a shot. So he was back in. Tyburn led the team out on his 50th appearance. And then the game got underway and you sort of thought, oh great, there's a bit of aggro in this one. It was in the first minute. Was it Scott Cummings and Joe McCarthy having a little bit of a scuffle? The very first play. I thought, great, we're on for a good game here. Probably in truth, it wasn't the sort of game that many would have hoped it would have been. It was tense, certainly right at the end when Scotland still had a chance to win the game. By the way, full-time score 17-13. It was a little bit messy at times. Joe McCarthy, by the way, I mean he had a poor game against England last week, or was it overshadowed by George Martin and Maro Itoje in that one. He was back on it a bit today. There was that steal, just ripped the ball out of Xander Fagerson's hand. He was having that little scuffle with Scott Cummings. That was nice to see. There were some reactions from some of the players that would have felt like they weren't at their best last week. But Scotland, their defensive attitude early on sort of was replicated through the whole match, actually. They really had a pop. It was Andy Christie in that first moment managing to charge down a James Lowe kick. Andy Christie, by the way, I've talked about Peter O'Mahony, the guy that was playing six for Scotland. I mean, Jamison Gibson Park got the Man of the Match award. No problem with that whatsoever. He was excellent. Personally, I'd give it to this guy. He was absolutely immense. And I think Scotland would have been dead and buried and the game would have been over long before it was, were it not for this guy. Incidentally, just on the Scotland kit, you can just see it here with a picture of Andy Christie. Macron, get rid of this little white strip at the back. It kind of looks like Scotland are being trendy, wearing their shorts, pulling them down low, and they've got a bit of their pants on show. Anyway, that's off the point with the rugby. There was a couple of Finn Russell penalties either side of a try for Dan Sheehan. Now, bearing in mind Scotland did lots and lots of good things defensively. I guess it's a question, what's the rugby equivalent of an own goal? Well, we saw it for Dan Sheehan's try. That was the rugby equivalent of an own goal in football. Come on, Scott, on your own line. you just go bank a ball, don't you? I mean, if you've played rugby at any sort of level, you just go play percentages and just win the ball so that you can exit. And chucking a throw that had to be at full stretch and reaching rather than just bringing it down a little bit so you secure the ball. Yeah, it seemed like a really silly error. And Ireland, who were stuttering a little bit in attack, got themselves a 7-0 head start. And when you look at the score overall, 7-6, sorry it was, when you look at the score overall and across the whole match and how manfully Scotland defended, that should really, really annoy them. I'll come on to some other points that Ireland will feel like they should have scored. But Scotland were up for it. Andy Christie, as I've already mentioned, was an absolute nuisance. Robbie Henshaw and chasing up and unders, name a more iconic duo. By the way, just one thing, watching the game earlier between Wales and Italy and this game, they need to just take the law about putting the ball in straight at the scrum. They need to get that out of the law book because not a single referee enforces it, which I'm okay with. But the problem is, my son's team have got a match tomorrow at his level, and the referees are constantly penalising feeding in the scrum. It's just a total disconnect between the lower level of the game and the elite game you see on the telly, because scrum halves are just putting the ball in to the second row's feet. And fine, if that's the way you want it to go, just take it out of the rule book and then let's have everyone doing that, or enforce it. Actually, just on the officiating in general in this game, I mean, there was a lot that the players could have controlled and a lot of things that they could have done better. But I don't know, was it me? Just generally tell me in the comments what you think about anything I'm saying, what you thought about the game. Get stuck in down below. I didn't think Matthew Carley had a great game. Some odd decisions, I will say, to say the least. But then there were a lot of errors as well. It wasn't all on the referee, but the kind of Aviva Stadium felt quite quiet. I mean, I've been there for lots of Leinster games. I've worked on matches there. Have I been there for an Ireland game? No, I haven't. Never been to Dublin and watched an Ireland game there. I'll have to get that one done. But the atmosphere seemed a little quiet. Was that partly because it was a stuttery kind of game with lots of errors? Or is it quite... Because it's a big match, was ticket prices high and it was quite corporate? I don't know. Actually, they found their voice by the end of it, and it'll be a good old party. St. Patrick's Day weekend and all that. There'll be a good old party tonight in Dublin, I've no doubt. But just it felt like the game was stuttering a little bit. There was a couple of moments for Scotland. Stafford McDowell, amazing name, sounds like a firm of solicitors as well as an international rugby player, and he looked an international rugby player, didn't he? But generally the quality was not quite there in that first half, albeit that was a massive part of that was just the pressure that the teams were putting on each other in defence. 7-6 at half time to Ireland, and as I say, Ireland's 7 points may be fortuitous. I think what this game and what this tournament has shown from an Irish perspective, and I mean, you know what, they're the champions, and rightly so. They're not quite at the level they have been, and it just demonstrated to me just how important Gary Ringrose is, and particularly when Gary Ringrose and Hugo Keenan aren't there. That's just that's a massive part of the brain of this Irish team out on the field, not there. And Jack Crowley's done really well actually coming in for Johnny Sexton, with that being the context. And I think Jack Crowley doing what he's done without Gary Ringrose should be a massive part of the context that we judge his Six Nations in. And on that basis, I think Jack Crowley's done really, really well. So second half, after kind of slow, cumbersome, lots of errors, odd refereeing of the breakdown, strange decisions, atmosphere not quite being there. By the way, maybe all it was, the atmosphere wasn't as great at the Aviva Stadium because Stevie Mulrooney didn't do the national anthem. Get him out for every game. Come on, especially on a St. Patrick's Day weekend, surely. That should just be a fixture now, moving forward. By the way, on the songs, I loved that. It was nice to hear Zombie at the end, and the crowd were really getting into that. But I'll tell you what, Ireland games, there is no substitute for the Fields of Athenry, is there? It was just goosebump, hairs on the back of your neck stuff. Love it. Second half kicks off, and it was all Ireland. Territorially, they completely dominated, put the squeeze on Scotland. I think on another day, and I'm going to credit Scotland for this one, on another day, Ireland would probably have won by 20 points. They had that much pressure on. The fact that Scotland managed to finish within 4 points is remarkable, given the lack of territory that they had in that second half. It was all Ireland and relentless wave of pressure after pressure after pressure. And yeah, penalty for Jack Crowley initially. And they were suddenly, Ireland, getting the balls to the edges a little bit quicker. Jameson Gibson Park, massively influential there. He was clearly, I think they had a chat at half-time, just go wide sooner, stretch Scotland, go coast to coast a little bit, and then the holes will appear. And it did. They ran Scotland off their feet. Scrum penalties started to come. Don't you love the sight of a scrum just being kind of folded up and one scrum walking over another scrum? It's if it's not your team, it's a nice sight, isn't it? Finn Russell ballsed up a kick-off straight into touch just at the point when Scotland needed to try and get a bit of territory. That took it away, and then that just invited Ireland on for a load of pressure, which led to, well, we thought Tadhg Furlong scoring a try, but it was given not a try and a knock-on. Now, you tell me what you think, but this was one of those decisions, and bearing in mind the referee and the TMO and the assistant referees had plenty of time to look at this. If you want to give it not a try, fine. The not a try and a knock on I find quite strange, because to my mind that went backwards. So, to have found both things wrong. Anyway, whatever. I guess that goes to show the Scotland fans that were really upset about the decision at the end of the France game. I totally get it. But you do get these things, swings and roundabouts. There's never a bias or conspiracy. Sometimes it's just one of those things. And actually, in that context, don't mind it. So, Finlay Bealham came on, yeah, scary scrum for Ireland. Nash, oh my God, Calvin Nash, how did he not score? He had like what's the opposite of an overlap? An underlap. He had 5 Scotland players chasing him into a corner. He managed to step 4 of them, and all he had to do was finish it. He's been really good this Six Nations, and he could have capped it off with an amazing try. But he did another step. I thought it was Jordan Lama that just did constant stepping, but Calvin Nash is pretty steppy as well. He did 1 step too many and ran into, I think it was Andy Christie of all people again. Just, again, saving Scotland's bacon. Scotland were hanging on by a thread. Gary Wingrose came on. Scotland had no territory. Wave after wave of pressure. They could have taken the points to go 9 ahead, but Ireland smelt blood and were going for the jugular. Eventually, Andrew Porter scored the try, and the crowd were up. Fields of Athenry was being sung, and you felt like that was done. But then, of course, Harry Byrne with a high tackle on Finn Russell went to the bunker. That looked like it's potential red. I don't remember what the final decision was, but whatever the case, his day was over, with it being gone 70 minutes. And then Finn Russell, who actually I think he's been really good as well this tournament. He kind of led his Scotland team. Hugh Jones defied kind of physics to score a try, make it interesting at the end. Ireland closed it out. Ireland are your Six Nations champions. There's Hugh Jones with his try. I'll go and look at that video. I'll put it down in the description below. But that's the man I want to focus on. And that are the team that are the Six Nations champions. And even though there is nothing on the line besides placings in the table, I am absolutely buzzing about England against France, which is coming up in a little bit from Lyon. And I'll be sat here talking about it immediately after the game. So if you appreciate the rugby content, and thanks so much for the support on the channel, I really appreciate it. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers. I would love it if I would earn your subscription on the channel. Give the video a thumbs up to help me reach other rugby fans. Leave your comments down below, tell me what you think.